Ngayon naman po, dadako tayo sa isa ring napakagandang isla at we'll experience naman, we'll learn from another best practice from Calbayog City. So I'd like to introduce to you our next speaker. So our next speaker is Jonas T. Lim, who currently serves as City Government Department Head of the City Arts and Culture Office, or CACO, of Calbayog City, a position he has held since 1996. He is also CACO's Artistic Director since 1996. From 2001, he has also been the Executive Director of the Escolar Calbayog and the Chairmaster of Escolar Calbayog Chorus, which was a NAMSHA 2015 finalist. Jonas Lim has also served as the Festival Director of Hadang, the Samar Island Cultural Tourism Festival, the director of Alferez Victoy Musical, an official entry to the International Theater Festival at 98 at CIS Cultural Center of the Philippines, and the director of Bilingan, a dance musical official entry to Sambayan 2000, and Ikatlong Tagpo National Theater Festival, also at the Cultural Center of the Philippines. He received the Outstanding Calbayugnon Award in 2019 and the Outstanding CKC Alumnus for Theater and the Arts. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Jonas Lim.
Maupay nga kulok, thank you very much. Greetings from the people of Calbayog, the Calbayugnons, and the scholars and employees of the City Arts and Culture Office. I will not be presenting all the programs of CACO, but only the important things or praxis, cultural praxis that might help the establishment of the Theater Arts Academy. Slide, please. I would like to start my presentation by introducing a Binisaya word, Lara, which refers to mat weaving. Lara is hobby in Filipino, which is the developmental theme of Sabadulaan. Next slide, please. Lara. Why Lara? Because I envision Theater Academy or an Arts Academy as a leadership academy revolutionizing the arts. Next, please. Why Leadership Academy? Because governance is all about leadership. Because development is all about leadership. And I mean good leadership. Many observers of good democratic governance and the rule of law, previous experiences and recent developments in the Philippines have been discouraging. Filipinos are suffering from the never-ending wicked activities of politicians and government officials, magnified by the diminishing accountability of government to its people. Much has been said about good governance. We know the definition. It's sensationalized, rationalized, and parroted during seminars attended by the great minds, and yet the government is failing. Our leaders were graduates from the best universities in the country and abroad, and yet corruption is unshamedly thriving. Next, please. In this troubling context, we need an academy of leaders which is culture-centered and values-oriented. An academy that will produce the best leaders for the country, nurtured by discipline, integrity, honesty, sincerity, respect, and public service at the apex, with only the well-being of the Filipino people in mind. We have good leaders, but unfortunately, not in the political arena or the government. Sorry for the voice. But in the private sector, non-government organizations serving the community at its best. And I call them artists, cultural workers, and cultural leaders. Imagine a Philippines led by Tata Nanding, Gandhi Labat, Nestor Hardin, Brenda Fajardo, Cecil Guidote Alvarez, Steve Fernandez, and all the big cheese in culture and art sector. The best, I suppose, for the nation. Ang ganda siguro ng Pilipinas. I salute these cultural leaders. I admire them because they have the whiter and white intentions of helping the nation and the Filipinos. Pero bakit po hindi sila naging mayors? Bakit hindi sila naging governors, congressmen, senators, presidente kaya? Sa totoo lang, mabuti pa ang sektor. Ibang sektor may party list. Kahit ang iba hindi totoo. Ang sining at kultura, wala. Pero importante daw tayo. At totoo, importante ang sining at kultura. Next, please. With the increasing challenges in democratic spaces and values around the country, and the cultural community still claim its space in nation building, this must be the question that must guide us in the discussion processes in trying to establish a Philippine Theater Academy. Reality check, kaunti na po tayo, or kaunti lang tayo. Kailangan natin maparami, kailangan na rin nating mapakinggan ng gobyerno. Sabi nga ni Tata Nanding in one of his posts in FB, if I may quote him, as long as the arts and culture are not recognized as essential for shaping the human being and the society we live in, we will continue to be confronted with the age-old problems of the world. This is a red flag. We need to do something. And I strongly believe that the arts and culture sector can reinvigorate and influence the quality of politics and governance in the Philippines. Next, please. So, if we will establish a Philippine Theater Academy, or Arts Academy for that matter, my unsolicited and unassuming suggestion is that it must be a culture-centered leadership academy. Next, please. Because we believe that effective governance involves not only programs for poverty alleviation and economic infrastructures, but likewise, a strengthened social infrastructure through an effective human resource development program. Man is one of the potent factors in development and effective governance. We need to invest in social infrastructure. Next, please. That is why, if I may share our cultural praxis, the local government of Calbayog indubitably invested in establishing the Scholar Calbayog Scholarship Program for all college students, as initiated by the City Arts and Culture Office in 2001, under the leadership of Mayor Mel Sarmiento. Calbayog is blessed because we have culturally oriented leaders like City Councilor and now Board Member Julius Mangkol, the late Mayor and Congressman Rinaldo S. Uy, Mayor and Congressman Mel Sarmiento and former DILG Secretary, Mayor Ronald P. Aquino, Vice Mayor Diego Rivera, and Congressman Edgar Sarmiento, godfathers of culture and arts development in the city. Scholar Calbayog is leadership, academic, cultural scholarship program given to Calbayugnons and Samareños who are poor and deserving with talent inclination to arts and culture. Scholar Calbayog, like any other established leadership organization, is culture-centered because we know the importance of culture in developing the human character. Society is equal to people. People need character. And the most decisive factor in the development of human character is culture. That is the rationale of establishing the scholarship program on top of program sustainability in culture and the arts. And of course, we want also to develop the second liners in cultural work through this scholarship program in order to sustain the gains of arts and culture in the city. Next slide, please. Allow me to share some of the major accomplishments of the scholarship program since its inception in 2001. Job placement is 98.25%. In other words, if you are a graduate of the scholarship program, you will land a job, 98.25%. Board exams passing percentage is 100%. Let civil engineering, electrical engineering, or master electrician exams. 45 to 55% of the graduates are holding managerial positions in companies and government agencies all over the country. We were able to produce also magna cum laudes, with high honors. In cultural work or in the arts, we were finalists in the Tendamsha 2015 choral competition. Sambayan 2000, Ikatlong Tagpo, NTF, the Biringan Dance Musical. We attended also the Pasinaya at the Cultural Center of the Philippines. Some of our theater performances will tour nationally, including the Lahub. Next slide, please. What are the benefits of the scholars? One, full scholarship since 2001. Monthly allowance, book allowance, free laptops and internet, financial assistance for graduation and thesis expenses. We conduct workshops and seminars in leadership and the arts. We have our Arts Academy, class in the ISCO Talk. We also conduct civil service review sessions and other academic sessions because we believe that a leader, in order to be effective, is to be knowledgeable. Next slide, please. In a nutshell, we expose the grantees to the following areas of concern: leadership, academic excellence, and arts and culture. Why am I sharing this? Because I resolutely believe we can do this in the academy. This is what I envision of an arts academy. Next slide, please. A full scholarship for all qualifiers. No tuition fee. There must be monthly allowance or, better yet, salary for all scholars and students in the academy. If the government can do this in the Philippine Military Academy or the PMA and the PNPA, then why not for the Philippine Theater Academy? Lahat libre. Ang military, seguridad. Ang kultura, kapasidad. Number 3, a 3-structured program academy on leadership, academics, cultural development. Hindi pwedeng arts or culture lang. Dapat pasok ang academics, especially leadership. And number 4, establishment of the Philippine Theater Academy in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, and eventually in all the regions. Next, please. With all the premises considered, the Philippine Theater Academy must be state-sponsored, managed and administered by qualified cultural leaders, not by just anybody whimsically appointed by a slipshod government. Marami tayong mga qualified leaders. Is this possible? We have faith, yes. What are the terms of reference? We have basis po. Provisions are enshrined in the 1987 Constitution. It's a constitutional mandate. I don't like to sound like a lawyer or an expert in the laws. I just want to share the constitutional mandates that help establishments of the City Arts and Culture Office. So next, please. Article 2, Declaration of Principles and State Policies, Section 17. The state shall give priority to education, science, and technology, highlighted arts and culture, foster patriotism, nationalism, accelerate social progress, and promote total human liberation and development. Next, please. Article 14, Section 14 to 18, Culture and the Arts. Allow me to cite the provisions in passing. Section 14, the state shall foster the preservation, enrichment, and dynamic evolution of a Filipino national culture based on the principle of unity and diversity in a climate of free artistic and intellectual expression. Section 15, arts and letters shall enjoy the patronage of the state. The state shall conserve, promote, and popularize the nation's historical and cultural heritage resources, as well as artistic creations. Next, please. Section 16. All the country's artistic and historic wealth constitutes the cultural treasure of the nation and shall be under the protection of the state, which may regulate its disposition. Section 17. The state shall recognize, respect, and protect the rights of indigenous cultural communities to preserve and develop their cultures, traditions, and institutions. It shall consider these rights in the formulation of the national plans and policies. Next, please. Section 18. The state shall ensure equal access to cultural opportunities through the educational system. Kaya kayang-kaya po ang establishment ng Philippine Arts Academy. So it's clear, the government can play several roles in the cultural and artistic life of a nation based on the aforementioned provisions in the Constitution. Next slide, please. So base doon, ano ang una? The government is a preserver of culture. The government provides the material and financial resources. Kaya sabi ko kanina, state-sponsored. to ensure the preservation of Philippine culture and history. While the private sector and academic institutions may contribute to the efforts, the government takes the lead and assumes the main responsibility for conserving and enriching the collective memory of the nation. So bakit natin iaasa sa private sector? Nasa konstitusyon naman na kailangan gobyerno. Next, please. Protection of the arts. The government ensures that the environment allows free expression of artists and cultural workers, and that the requisite resources are provided to give meaning to that free expression of artistic excellence. So hindi po tayo kailangan matakot na baka state-sponsored, kontrolin tayo. Nasa konstitusyon po na hindi pwede. Bibigyan tayo ng free expression. Next slide, please. Promoter of culture. Government uses the vast resources at its command, including the school system, media, and other media of cultural and artistic dissemination to promote the Filipino culture and the arts. Next, please. With all the foregoing constitutional mandates, in Calbayog City, we were able to establish the City Arts and Culture Office, or CACO, in 1994, at first as a division of the Mayor's Office, and eventually as one of the departments in the local government tuning, distinct and separate from the City Tourism Office. Next slide, please. At baka magkaroon ng mga cultural arts offices sa ibang lugar, I'd like to share some experiences, especially in managing cultural office in the LDLGU. I started in 1996. I was 24 then. And maraming challenges. One, you need to learn the arts. You cannot be knowledgeable only in one discipline. Aside of the office, you are also the artistic director. So it's a must. I started in theater. Then later, I have to learn dance. Why? May papasok na mga empleyado na sa dance. So kailangan more or less knowledgeable ka. So I attended the workshops of Denise Reyes sa ACPC. Then, visual arts. Ang aking assistant, napapasok, visual artist. So bago pa siya pumasok ng opisina, malis na ako. Nag-art appreciation workshop na ako. Then pumasok ang mga musicians sa opisina. So, kailangan ko lang mag-aral ng music and composition. I learned design. I studied video production. Nag-script writing na rin ako. Kasi may mga pumasok na mga writers. And lately, nag-enroll ako sa Pelikula. Natuto na rin akong magturo sa choir, choral conducting. Kung theater lang, baka hindi ako naging effective. You need to earn the respect of your employees. So my point is, people in the academy must be experts in the arts. At marami tayong ganun. Baka mamaya, hindi masama sila, iba ang mapunta sa academy. Number 2, you need to know arts management. It's essential because you need to establish your annual cultural events from January until December and coordinate with other agencies and the people in the community. So I need to attend workshops and seminars on arts management. Kasama ako sa NCCA-ICAM. Then exposures to festival organization and administration, community organizing, and legislations. Legislation is very important. Kaya nga, pumasok na rin ako, nag-study na rin ako ng law. Not to become a lawyer, pero para lang matuto. Because every day, or may ginagawa kayo, you need to defend annually the annual budget and the plight of your employees. At saka yung mga program. So kailangan ng mga legislations. So today, I'm trying to learn cultural mapping. Second point, let the academy be administered by arts managers, experts, and cultural leaders. Number 3, you need to know how to work with the local officials. Most challenging of all. Hindi pwedeng i-appoint ka na lang. Swerte ka pag ganon. You need to be involved in politics. You need to help in their elections. Pag nanalo, ma-appoint ka. Pwede. Ano kung after appointment, controlling ka? Ano na ang free expression of artists and cultural workers? You don't sacrifice it. You stand by the principles of artistic excellence and free expression. Our leaders will always give you that. They listen, especially if explained, it's best. Communication is always the best ingredient in governance. Share ko lang, sa amin dito, fortunately, hindi naman kami pinapakialaman sa mga cultural activities. Kahit nga doon sa screening of the scholars. Una, may mga recommendation, pero in-explain ko sa kanila na politics is addition. Pwedeng mapasaya mo ang isang scholar, ang pamilya, pero hindi mo na makakomodate yung iba kasi 25 lang yung slot or 50. So maraming magagalit. So kailangan mag-hands off. Di ba? Minsan political color. Hirap. Kaya lang kailangan mong i-depensa at kailangan i-justify kung bakit kailangan mo siyang kunin. There are also instances that you need to work beyond your mandate in the arts. Kaya ako personally for 3 years, lalo-lalo na yung last, ako na ang naging chairman, nagtrabaho kami sa sports, IBRAA. So how do you work with local officials? Third point, it's performance. Kahit na magpalit ng administrasyon, kung meron kayong pinapakita na maganda, you always give your best at all times. Tatanggapin ka, tutulungan ka. Kaya lang ito yung aking tip, mga magiging head, in the future, no personal favor. Huwag kayong hihingi ng project. Hindi ko ginawa yun sa tatlong mayor. What is the reason for Kako establishment aside from its cultural mandate? Next slide, please. Professionalism among artists, cultural workers, and cultural leaders. Work in the arts embracing the principle of volunteerism. But it cannot continue for long because we have families to feed. Hence, we made arts and culture exploits a profession like teachers, doctors, engineers, and lawyers. It's a development from volunteerism to professionalism. Ako someday, gusto kong makarinig ng isang bata, sasabihin niya, someday, in the future, I want to be a cultural worker. Wala pang ganun eh. Puro pa, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a doctor, I want to be a teacher. Ang sarap siguro pakinggan. Kung mayroon ng bata, maririnig mo, I want to be a cultural worker. What I'm trying to emphasize here is that artists and cultural workers auspiciously merit employment in the government and receive salaries equivalent to their qualifications. I work hard for this. In Kako, I have to defend the employees from the creation of the items up to their appointment. There are a lot of challenges along the way. Sabi ko kanina, political color. May mga magagaling pero ibang partido. Pero kailangan mong ipasok sa office at kailangan mong i-justify. Natatanggap naman. Qualifications, eligibility. Kaya ako sinabi kanina na 3 structured program kasamang academics. Why? Maraming artists graduate pero hindi pasado sa civil service. Ang problema dyan, pag nagtrabaho ka sa gobyerno, kailangan pasado ka sa professional or professional. So kailangan timbang. Mabuti naman at nakapag-research ako, and I did a lot of research and finally found the golden treasure for artists and cultural workers. Meaning, pwede kang magtrabaho sa gobyerno kahit na hindi ka pasado. For 1 year, pag maganda ang performance mo, very satisfactory. Bibigyan ka ng eligibility mismo ng Civil Service Commission. Ang tawag dyan, skills, eligibility, as underscored in Civil Service Memorandum Circular number 11. Today, Kako has 24 regular employees with salary grades from SG1 to SG25 and with monthly income ranging from 11,000 plus to 104,000 plus. All employees have the security of tenures under the Civil Service Commission. And after retirement, everyone receives his or her respective pension from the GSIS. If we succeed in establishing the Philippine Theater Academy, the most disturbing question that will haunt us is, where will the artist students go after graduation? Anong trabaho nila? Nga? Or employment na lang? Maybe in a call center agency? If that happens, the purpose of the academy is defeated. Next slide, please. The enormous and thought-provoking task here is we need to generate employment for culture and the arts sector. How? By creating culture and arts offices in all local government units, replicating Kako, Calbayog City, parallel to the establishment of the academy. Hindi po siguro pwedeng academy lang. At huwag tayong aasa palagi sa pribadong sektor. Next slide, please. Imagine natin to. The Philippines has 1,488 municipalities, 146 cities, 81 provinces, total LGUs, 1,715, times 24 employees on the average. Kasi yung iba, yung mayayaman lugar, pwedeng mas marami pa. Naal nga, Sir Al, meron silang 50 plus. So, if we multiply that, that is 41,160 cultural workers to be employed nationwide with security of tenure and pension, aside those being employed by the Cultural Center of the Philippines, NCCA, and other cultural institutions and by the government. That's a ballpark figure. The number can increase in time. In kako, solo muna ako na permanent employee. Then, naging 3. Dumami hanggang naging 24. As we also have our casual employees. Next slide, please. I have been advocating for the creation of cultural offices and councils for the following reasons. Hindi ko rin sinasabing masama ang council, pero pwedeng i-partner ang council at saka art offices. Ito yung difference. Sa arts councils, walang full-time membership. Academy yung iba sa gobyerno, yung iba abogado. So, hindi nagtatrabaho full-time. Yung mga opisina, full-time employees, they work 5 or maybe beyond 5 o'clock. Arts councils, ang budget per project. Arts offices, may annual budget appropriation. Sa arts councils, may allowances and stipend. Arts offices, may monthly salary and bonuses. Sa arts councils, no security of tenure. Sa arts offices, may security of tenure. Sa arts councils, no retirement pension. Sa arts offices, with retirement pension. Is this possible? Again, I have faith, yes. We have Kako po in Calbayog City. All local government units can create the same office with the help of the National Commission for Culture and the Arts. It is in their mandate. Next slide, please. Let's try to review RA 7356, the creation of the NCCA 1992, under the implementing rules and guidelines on the role of local, provincial, regional cultural arts council. That's the title, arts councils. But if you will try to read and pay attention to the intent of the law or the provision, ibang makikita mo. It says here, in the promotion, development, and implementation of its programs and plans, the Commission, through the proper resolution and in its discretion, shall decide whether or not, meaning it's incumbent upon the NCCA, to establish local, provincial, regional agencies. Agencies are offices or representations of the NCCA. Or, in the alternative, assist in the creation of local, provincial, regional culture and arts councils. Sabi ko kanina, walang masama doon sa arts councils. Kaya lang, alternative yun merong primary. Pwede ang regional offices or local offices. Next slide, please. We also have the support of the DILG. Sa kanilang memorandum circular posted sa website noong October 2. This is under the PDP 2017-2022, Chapter 7. Anong sinasabi doon sa PDP? It highlights the establishment of local culture and arts councils, LCACs. Again, the title, it says arts councils. So basahin natin ang intensyon. The rationale is to establish offices for culture and the arts in the local government units with a mandate to protect and promote local cultural heritage and arts. Next slide, please. On the other hand, Article 5, Section 14, Paragraph B, Republic Act 10066 stipulates that local government units, through their cultural offices, again, shall likewise maintain an inventory of cultural property under its jurisdiction and shall furnish the Commission a copy of the same. And another welcoming circular from the DILG is Memorandum Circular Number 2019-44 on the Seal of Good Local Governance, SGLG. Next, please. Seal of Good Local Governance puts premium to integrity and good performance as it seeks to institutionalize the continuity of local government reforms and development. It is a progressive assessment system that gives LGUs a distinction from the remarkable performance across several areas. Under policy content and guidelines, the SGLG applies the all-in assessment system where the LGU must pass the 7 governance areas to it. Ibig sabihin yan, hindi po tayo nakapasa sa 7, hindi po tayo bibigyan ng award ng SGLG. Fortunate for Calbayog, nakapasok po kami, naging awardee po kami. Ano itong 7? 1, financial administration. Second, disaster preparedness. Third, social protection. Peace and order. Business friendliness and competitiveness. Number 6, environmental protection. And number 7, tourism, culture, and the arts. Importante siya. Kasama siya. Ito hindi natin ginawa or hindi kasama sa programa, hindi ka papasa sa SGLG. 1987 pa ang Constitution. 1992 ang NCCA law. Nagamit na po namin sa Calbayog in 1994. Gamitin po natin sa bansa. Sayang, 28 years na lumipas. The challenge is daunting, but we can saturate our brimming energies and push for the gains of arts to be sustained. We know that the community created by arts and culture is potentially a great source of inspiration for politicians and government leaders. We can gallantly convince them to establish the Philippine Theater Academy and to create cultural and arts offices in the LGUs. Hari nawa. Mga salamat.
Jonas Lim, thank you so much. It's so refreshing to hear from our government, public servants, and cultural workers. Very intelligent, very knowledgeable. Public servants. And thank you for reminding us of the mandates of the Constitution and the memorandum of DILGs, reminding us of our rights and responsibilities as cultural workers, and for sharing your practical experience from the ground and the praxis and the framework and bringing light into these dark times. Sometimes very, the situation in the government, the corruption brings a lot of disillusionment and frustration. But you're giving us some hope. The beautiful things that you've said, refreshing enough to listen to about Kako, the competence, performance. No, you were saying, even mentioning professionalism, no personal favors. I think it is very important also when you're saying, also good to know that there is something like skills eligibility for our cultural workers. No, kung hindi man, they were not able to take the exams, there is another way to qualify them. And I think the cultural praxis, the LARA, is very, very important in bringing that level of leadership in the government. And as a challenge of taking it as also a framework for the Academy of the Philippine Theater. Thank you also for bringing us also, again, reminding us of how we need to increase our tribes of becoming more forward in terms of being part of the seats in the government. Ang hamon sa mga artista, kayo ba ay tatakbo rin ang mga ganda ninyo? Tatakbo rin ba kayo? Filimon, Kuya Arman. Na magagandang mayor, ha? Na matatalino at magagaling. No? At may character, may values, may vision. Ayan na. So yan, hamon ni Jonas sa inyong lahat. So para sa ating ganda ng mga sinabi mong scholar ng bayan, no? You start them young, support them. And mukhang maraming mag-a-agree at susuporta sa sinasabi mong dapat full scholarship. Merong tuition, free tuition, at gusto ba natin yan, Philemon? Siyempre, merong libre at meron pang allowance, no? Kailangan may talagang suportado ang mga artists, hindi magugutom, kaya kailangan magiging magaling silang mga leaders, no? At siyempre, sinasabi rin ni Jonas, hindi pwedeng basta-basta lang ang mga faculty at administration. Kailangan qualified cultural leaders. May character, responsible, no? Merong magandang track record, kanilang expertise, no? So, napakagaling, no? Isang tularan siguro na another way of siguro saying, to become a cultural worker just like Jonas, he has to learn all the skills. He has to equip himself. Ganon ka-independent. Hindi pwedeng papalakpak at ngingiti-ngiti ka lang dyan. You have to be arts manager. No, galing ha. Kailangan maging lawyer ka pa. Kailangan nag-aral pa talaga si Jonas. Know how to work with other people. No, you know the politics in your community. Kailangan you have to be an expert in the arts. That's very inspiring, Jonas. We need to be versatile. We need to be very able to converse. We need to learn their language. How do you talk to politicians when you don't know their language? No, it's very important. So sana nawa ay may the Academy of the Philippine Theater produce leaders, no, with strong values and character, responsible, dignified, no, with love for culture and the arts, no, well-paid professionals and recognized for their expertise, no. Maraming salamat.
Maraming salamat sa lahat ng nag-present, sa apat na speakers, and at the same time sa lahat ng mga nagtanong at nag-share ng kanilang opinions din and comments about the topic. So for today, napaka-interesting nung ating topic. It's about theater in development and governance. And this is all for the establishment of Philippine Theater. This is the reason why we are here, no? So I'd like to start with Emmy's metaphor of bukag. Napaka-interesting nung metaphor ni Emmy as a parang way to start the synthesis. Kasi yung bukag, nilagyan ko na lang siya ng bisikleta kasi according dun sa presentation ni Emmy, kailangan may it's like a vessel na itinatakbo mo sa iba't ibang lugar. Nagdadala ka ng goods sa iba't ibang lugar, no? So I think napaka-appropriate ng image ng bukad at ng image na ito to look at theater in development and governance, no? So sa mga narinig ko mula dun sa apat na experts and voices mula sa iba't ibang lugar ng Pilipinas, ang unang realization ko ay buhay na buhay ang teatro. At napakasarap sa puso, napakasarap sa kaluluwa na kahit papaano binigyan ninyo ng maraming mukha kung paano ang teatro sa rehiyon, sa probinsya, sa community at sa puso ng mga cultural workers experiences na ibinahagi ninyo. Buhay na buhay ang teatro sa iba't ibang forma, hugis, structure, expressions and lengguwahe, no? Buhay na buhay ang teatro sa iba't ibang gamit, functions, and tools and medium at bilang driver. Isa siyang driving force whether it's for, sabi ni Emmy again kanina, whether it's for social transformation or whether it's for promoting tourism or whether it's for safeguarding cultural heritage. So, buhay na buhay ang teatro sa loob ng development and governance aspect, no? Diniscuss ng apat, masasabi ko, nasaan doon ang theater, no? Nasaan ang teatro, saan nakalugar ang teatro sa usapin ng kaunlaran at ng governance. Una, ang teatro ay nakapaloob nandun sa vision of safeguarding cultural heritage and promoting cultural development. Madalas nababanggit yan ng apat na speakers, no? Pangalawa, ang teatro ay nasa loob ng pagbubuo ng collective memory natin as people and as a nation. So it is there. It is very much present in historizing, in commemorating history of our nation and our people, no? Theater is also present in developing tourism industry, no? At ang importante doon, a tourism that is responsible and a tourism that is sustainable and ecologically safe, parang ganun, or sense ecologically nurturing, no? So nandoon ang teatro. At buhay na buhay din ng teatro, nandoon siya sa loob ng pag-address at pagpo-promote ng iba't ibang issues ng development and building a sustainable and creative communities. When we talk about creative communities, klaro yung isinare ng mga experts at speakers na these are group of people sharing the same cause who acts together to create, no, to create and share as people, no? So yun yung isang aspect, no, kung nasaan ang teatro. Pero balikan natin yung tatlong tanong. There are three essential questions that this Sabadulaan has been probing or pursuing from the beginning, no? Unang tanong ay yung ano ang contributions ng mga speakers natin ngayon, yung konteksto nila, yung karanasan nila in shaping the academy. Yan yung mga tinutukan nilang sagutin. Pangalawa na tanong at sinubukan nilang sagutin ay ano ang magiging content ng academy and pedagogical standards as envisioned by our speakers for today. At pangatlong area ay ano ngayon ang magiging structure, whether it's space, it's organizational, or human resource structure, ang nakikita nitong mga speakers na ito sa pagbubuo ng Philippine Theater Academy. At ganito ko siya sinuma, no? In developing the Philippine Theater Academy, ang contributions ng ating mga speakers based on their karanasan, experiences, and expertise, unang-una ay context, yung sarili-sarili nilang context as the impetus, no? May kanya-kanyang cultural context, may kanya-kanyang environmental context, no? Pangalawa, napaka-importante na binanggit yung legal basis. Importante yan para sa ating mga cultural workers kasi siya yung magiging basis natin ng claims, entitlements, and assertion for a space to engage in governance and the system. Because we are in development and governance, we are talking about a system that is by the government, no? At ang pangatlong importante na i-contribute sa sharing ng karanasan nila ay yung klaro sa apat na ito, they have their own vision, mission, shared values, and goals. At makikita mo doon, nasa loob yan ng system of governance, no? May ang mga LGUs ay may napaka-progressive na vision, mission, goals, and shared values. At magandang ma-take advantage yon ng Philippine Theater Academy. Pang-apat, ang sunod ay yung pedagogical and aesthetic praxis. These are the lived experiences. Ito yung the lived experiences of our people, no? In community theater, in governance, in institution, network, and so forth and so on. Ito yung mga nabanggit na nila kanina. So ito yung contributions ng kanilang karanasan dun sa pag-develop ng Philippine Theater Academy. Pangalawang area ay ano naman yung nakikitang content and pedagogy. Merong interesting na sinabi or pinopose si Jonas, three-structured program academy sana siya, wherein you don't only focus on arts, but you also focus on three tracks: leadership, academics, and cultural development. In terms of methodology, it would be interesting to make it modular and promote a cross-cultural learning and exchange, or what we call as immersion, sa iba't ibang lugar, no? Iba't ibang places and regions. Tapos ang sunod, in terms of content naman, ito yung mga proposed content. Hindi ko na iisa-isahin pero binanggit na nila ito kanina, no? Ang importante siguro dun sa ay make it yung sustainable, yung parang having a content on building a sustainable and creative communities, no? Tapos yung panghuli in terms of content naman ay it has to be culture-centered and values-oriented. Pag sinabing values-oriented, these are the universal values that we talk about as human beings. The democratic values, inclusive, participatory, collaborative. So all those values has to be shared and has to be part of the pedagogical principles, no? Both as content and principle. And then when it comes to structure, paano siya ano magiging itsura niya? Importante na dapat state-sponsored siya kasi may legal basis. Meron kang claim, meron kang entitlement. It's in our constitution, it's in the international conventions, it's in the local government codes, maraming mga ordinances na pwedeng gamitin as legal basis. And in fact, the tourism department or kung ano man mga ahensya, merong merong basis for helping itong pagbubuo ng Theater Academy. Tapos yung isang forma rin niya, maging isang regional learning center, magkaroon siya ng kanya-kanyang hub or center. I think madalas itong nauulit sa previous sessions. It has to have a strong existing structural base na ang sinasabi, it has to be regionalized, no, as well. It cannot be just one in one area, but it has to be regionalized, run and managed by qualified cultural leaders with strong social infrastructure. And Jonas was talking about leadership, but it has to be a new approach to leadership. We cannot go on as usual with our ways. I mean, may critic si Jonas about the paradox of governance. There is that dark side, but there is also a window for change. And we are calling, it has to call for a new kind of leadership, no? And arts need to be revolutionized, no? Yun yung mga lumabas na mga punto na ibinahagi. Ang gusto kong i-reiterate, the 3R question, ito pa ulit-ulit, kaya ako siya tinawag na 3R because it's actually redundant, it's actually, it could be rhetorical, but these questions are requisites. These are requisite questions that all of us should answer and all of us should collectively share. Should we decide to be part of, should we all decide to be part of this Philippine Theater Academy? Why an academy and for whom? What will set the academy apart from the rest? What does it want to achieve? Is it sustainable enough and how? Paulit-ulit yan na tanong na naririnig ko in the past sessions, no? At maaring may iba-iba tayo ng sagot, may iba tayo ng agenda, pero kailangan collectively shared yon, no? Kahit pa siya ay redundant, rhetorical, but these are requisite questions, no? So, okay, dun sa pag-engage, dun sa pagbubuo ng Philippine Theater Academy, importante itong ingredients, di ba? We need the state, we need the system support, and we need to engage the state and the system. So, two-pronged yon. Kasi hindi natin kakayanin ito kung ang gagawa lamang nito ay private citizens. Kailangan talaga support ng Estado, support ng gobyerno, at support ng local units, no? So, but we also engage the government to look at the perspective of cultural workers on how we make development sustainable and how we make governance more democratic and human-oriented, no? And then it has to be collective and it has to be owned by collective and the community that we work with. And then of course, importante yung kahit na regionalized siya or may regional centers, importante ang critical representation. From the most vulnerable to lahat ng klase ng representations na mayroon ang Pilipinas, no? At nabanggit ko yung a new type of leadership that is transformative. So importante na yun ang ingredients nung Philippine Theater Academy na yun. So ito, gusto kong i-raise as a creative challenge. In relation to all these points, no, or things that were shared, ano yung creative challenge na gusto kong i-raise, no? We need to build a continuum. While we are envisioning a very nice idea of a Philippine Theater Academy, we have to build from what already exists, di ba? From lived experiences to emergent learnings, no? Ang daming nangyayari ngayon sa lipunan na never nangyari in the past at lahat tayo ay caught unaware. So how do we build from our lived experiences to how we live now, the challenges of the now, no? Like for example, can we build on, let's say, Philippine High School for the Arts and develop that as one regional center of the Philippine Theater Academy so that we don't have to reinvent the wheel because there is already an existing school. Then we just expand it. So that's an example of building a continuum, or start from Bohol's feasibility of a structure, then we build on that, let's start on that, and then we expand the idea. Parang that's the idea of how we should build a continuum as my creative challenge. The second creative challenge, ito usong-uso ito ngayon sa advertising at saka sa marketing, no? Yung pivot sa nangyayari sa atin ngayon, the 21st century call, yung the COVID or even the post-COVID, we all need to shift. We need to, kung dito tayo nakatingin ngayon, maganda yung sinabi kanina ni may nagsabi kanina na kailangan nating baguhin ang ating old ways. So we need to shift and pivot so that we respond to the 21st century call for creative destruction. What do we mean by creative destruction? It's actually, since we are in a creative industry, creative destruction is like the need for innovation, the need to shift and destroying old habits to create a new one. Ganyan ang nagiging demand sa atin ngayon in many aspects of our lives. We need to innovate, we need to digitally shift, and we need to transform our old ways of doing things. So, kaya importante yung medyo gaganong ka lang. And in fact, it's important that we also curricularize this pivoting experience, no? So, how do we do that? It has to be part of our skills and competency building among our cultural workers, yung agility to shift. Tapos yung siguro yung last point ay the essential, focus on the essential, what critical essencing. While we are talking about regionalized expression of Philippine Theater Academy, we have to have a critical perspective of what regionalized means, di ba? From cultural diversity to governance to identity, we need to have that process of critical essencing. Go for the core. If we use the metaphor of iceberg, the iceberg metaphor, di ba? Yung nakikita mo yung nasa taas, abutin natin yung pinaka-ilalim ng iceberg kasi yun yung core na dapat nating i-unfold para makuha natin ang esensya at ang core so that we can problematize everything and nothing and whatever happens in between, di ba? So, lahat ng aspects ng pinag-usapan natin kanina needs a critical reading and a critical perspective. But we also have to come into terms that we cannot come up with an absolute truth about all this, no? Ang importante lang, ano ang ating position, ano ang ating true north, ano ang ating shared values as cultural workers. And on that note, ibabalik ko uli ang image dun sa bukag na ibinigay ni Emmy kanina. Gamitin natin ang bisikleta at dalhin natin ang bukag na ito, ang basket na ito sa iba't ibang lugar at padayon lang. Maraming salamat po.